Well, I hope you guys put on your seatbelts before hopping into this roller coaster because, ladies and gentlemen, Kentucky basketball is back.
You are Locked On Kentucky, your daily podcast on the Kentucky Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, what's going on, Big Blue Nation? Welcome on into Locked On Kentucky, your daily Kentucky Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Lance Dawe, writer for Sports Illustrated for various SEC-related things. But on this podcast, we take a dive into all things Kentucky athletics. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and that's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. On today's episode of Locked On Kentucky, we are going to be recapping Kentucky basketball's 117-95 flogging of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Obviously, a massive game for Kentucky coming into this one after the loss to LSU. Wildcats rebounded in a big way today. I think Kentucky basketball, safe to say, with a win like this, they are back. Thank you so much for making Locked On Kentucky your first listen every single day. Want to remind everyone out there that we are free and available on all platforms. And if you are watching on YouTube, please subscribe to the show. If you are listening on podcast, wherever you are tuned in, appreciate you listening. Please subscribe there as well. So let's go ahead and get into it. Again, 117-95. That is the final score here today between the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Kentucky Wildcats. Bama came into this game as a 1.5-point underdog, having essentially dominated the SEC up until this point. Losses to Tennessee, losses to Auburn, both on the road by large margins. Ken Pom came into this one thinking Alabama will win this game by 2. They have a 57% chance to win. Most fans, after the loss to LSU for Kentucky, thought this one was going to be extremely close, if not a loss for UK. We've seen them lose 4 different home games so far this season, some of them in excruciatingly painful fashion. Today, I did not have a ton of hope in Kentucky pulling this one out because of just how good Alabama is on offense. And they average over 90 points a game. They scored 95 today. It's a very good offense. But the Wildcats, they did not just keep up. They blew them out of the water. That final score does not indicate just how lopsided this game was. It was a 37-point Kentucky advantage at one point in the second half. Kentucky was up on Alabama, the darling of the computer metrics, the beloved by net ratings, beloved by Ken Pom, beloved by analysts as a top seed in this NCAA tournament, one of the better teams in the tournament. They were drubbed today in Rupp Arena. The crowd was into it. The fans were just amazing. Cal was into it. I've not gotten a chance to watch Cal's presser, but there were some jokes on Twitter being made, like, I hope he wears pants to this one. I hope he wears anything at all, because he is going to celebrate and toot his horn, and darn it, he deserves to do so. Again, 117-95, but Kentucky, it was not that close. They ran Alabama out of the gym. I would love to see Kentucky play with a little bit more intensity as games like these wind down, because it happened against Georgia. It's happened a couple of different times this season where Kentucky's gotten up and they've let the team get back into the game by not playing great defense. Alabama kind of had some buckets late to make this one look closer than it was, but it's okay. Kentucky still won by 22. Still won by 22 and is looking now ahead to the rest of this schedule at maybe closing the season out stronger than anticipated. Now 19-8, 9-5 in the SEC. Really nice to get a win over the SEC leader in the SEC standings, because Kentucky really needs to start climbing the ladder here to get into that top four to get that double bye in the SEC tournament. So let's go ahead and dive into some of the stats here. I want to kind of save the individual performances because we've got some things to talk about. We've got some serious things to talk about with some players on this roster, most notably Justin Edwards. Let's just look at the base statistics here. Let's start with Bama. Bama shot 57% from the floor in this game. It's a really good offense that Bama has. Now, I'm not doing a bit here. Like, it's a really good offense. That offense was clicking today. It was impressive. They shot 35% from three, only got 17 threes up in this game. There have been multiple halves this year where Alabama has shot 17 or more threes. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, they shot 18 in the first half against Florida in their last outing. They were 2 of 9 in the second half from deep, just 22%. Kentucky, I think, really prioritized running Alabama off of the three-point line today, and it was impressive. But Alabama still, 34 of 60 from the floor, shot 78% from the foul line, took one more free throw than Kentucky did, which is not how this game was trending for the majority of it, by the way. 28 total rebounds. They out-rebounded the Wildcats by 2. They had 19 total or defensive rebounds, 9 offensive rebounds. They had 12 second-chance points, 2 more than Kentucky. They had 56 points in the paint, as opposed to Kentucky's 44. They had 17 fast break points, as opposed to Kentucky's 18. Pretty good numbers, all things considered, right? And yet they lost, which is what I keep coming back to. Alabama had a good offensive performance, and they lost. They scored 95 on the road, and they lost by 22 to Kentucky. The Wildcats shot 63% from the floor in this game, 41 of 65. They shot 13 of 24 from deep, 54%. They shot 22 of 26 from the foul line, 85%. They had just 10 turnovers. Alabama had 16. Kentucky had 29 points off of turnovers with about 8 minutes to go in the second half. And then they let off the gas. Kentucky still had 10 second chance points. They had 44 points off the bench. They had 24 assists. Just incredible. Just baseline numbers. Incredible performance from Kentucky basketball's offense. This is the ceiling. This is what Kentucky can be. Now, they've not been the most consistent team this season. They've been very volatile this entire year. It's a roller coaster. Like I said at the beginning, up and down and up and down and up and down. The LSU game, that was a crash. And ladies and gentlemen, we're coming back up. We're riding that roller coaster. It's just a matter of whether or not Kentucky can show some consistency here for just a 3-game stretch. Can you do it 3 games in a row, back to back to back? You're going to get a chance because you play Mississippi State and Arkansas. That state game is going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. Ken Palm still thinks Kentucky's going to lose that game. I wouldn't be shocked if they did. But you got a chance here. You're back on track. You got a chance to just stabilize the ship a little bit. What an insane performance from Kentucky basketball's offense. Insane. We're going to dive in here to just the nitty-gritty, some of the individual performances in just a second. Before I do that, though, I want to tell you guys about our friends over at LinkedIn Jobs. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality candidates that are just perfect for the role that you're looking for. And that is why you have to go and check out LinkedIn Jobs, because they have the right tools to help find professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn is not just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, makes it the best place to hire, period. They give you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else, and they do all of that while making the process easy and intuitive. And hiring is super easy when you have all of those quality candidates. It is so easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate that they're looking for within 24 hours, within just a day. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring, and you should too. You can post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Again, that is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free today. Terms and conditions apply. All right, continuing along here on the Saturday edition of Locked On Kentucky, Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. This recap episode of Kentucky versus Alabama will be up on Monday on the podcast feed. Going to have this one out on YouTube today on Saturday, regardless of where you are watching or listening. YouTube, podcast, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Apple, or iHeartRadio, I guess I should say. Subscribe. Does not matter where you are. Subscribe to the show. It's going to be a fun end to the season. I've been saying this for like 2 or 3 weeks now. You're going to want to join up. And let me know what you thought in this game, about this game. Let me know in the comments below. Did you think it was fun? Were you concerned a little bit about the defense? What were your thoughts about this contest? Let's dive in here, you and I. Let's talk about somebody that I know people are going to be discussing in the comments. Justin Edwards, 5-star prospect out of Philadelphia, has not performed up to expectation so far this season. We did a show on him, just exclusively on him, a few weeks ago, asking the question, why hasn't he lived up to the hype? Were the expectations unrealistic? Is it the system that he is in? I've said to multiple people that I've talked to outside of the show and on the show, if Justin Edwards were in another system where he had the chance to get more touches, I think that he would at one point develop. He would come into his own. But he wasn't getting the touches here at Kentucky. He hasn't been getting the touches here at Kentucky. Today, he got those touches. He got 10 shots. And he made all of them. 10 of 10 from the floor, 4 of 4 from 3, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, no fouls, no turnovers. 29 minutes of play. 28 points for the 5-star freshman. He's athletic. He can shoot. He can run in transition. He's crafty at the rim. He has the potential. We have seen the potential. It's just a matter of whether or not he can put it together game by game by game. And he did it today. He did it against LSU, if I'm not mistaken. Made a couple of outside shots. Looked like he was getting going. I don't think you guys know this. Justin Edwards is shooting over 40% from 3 in SEC play. He was shooting 39% coming into this game. He's shooting over 40% now. He has developed over the course of this season as he has gotten more touches. He's gotten better at the rim. He's gotten more confident with his outside shot, and his teammates are encouraging him. I loved seeing today. Every time Justin Edwards went to the bench after something good happened, everybody is trying to hype him up, get him going, get him confident, because this kid has a lot of talent. There was a reason he was this highly ranked coming out of high school. He's a really good talent and a really good kid as well. Loved seeing this performance today from Justin Edwards. Again, no turnovers, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, 28 points on perfect shooting. Only a few Wildcats have done that, period, in the history of the program. According to Kyle Tucker of The Athletic, he got a stat from Aiden Dunn. Justin Edwards is just the 10th college basketball player since 2010 to shoot 100% on at least 10 field goal attempts and 4 3-point attempts. Pretty good. Pretty dang good. Shout out my guy, Justin Edwards, for battling through it, getting past the noise, getting past the criticism, starting to get more confident in his game. If he is able to put it together at small forward for the Wildcats, it makes this rotation significantly more difficult to guard. Because for some reason, Cal has this fascination with running lineups where there is only one shooter in the game. Kentucky's got a lot of them, but he likes to run lineups where you've got one primary shooter and then some really tall guys, occasionally a couple of 7-footers, where you can just run this lengthy rotation. And if Edwards can find himself not playing the role of a lengthy small forward, power forward tweener, and playing more of the role of a stretch 3, stretch 4 type of guy in a small ball lineup, a stretch 4 type of guy, where he can step out and knock down that shot confidently, where he can handle the ball and get to the rim effectively. You add another shooter into this lineup, and it makes it so much more difficult to guard. It opens up so many different things, not just for Edwards, not just for guys like Reeves who would be running alongside him, but Kentucky's big men who continue to they continue to produce, I think, occasionally in terms of physicality, rebounding, etc. But they'll get more points, just straight up. They will just simply get more opportunities to score. Justin Edwards again, 28 points, great day. Antonio Reeves, 24 points, 7 of 10 shooting, 2 of 3 from deep. It's so interesting to me that Antonio Reeves, when he got here, we talked about this, I think, after the LSU game too. Even after the Auburn game, actually, as well. When he got to Kentucky, when he got to Lexington, he was a shooter. That's what he was coming out of Illinois State. He had a 3-point shot. And whenever we described him here on the show, we said we wish that he would be a little bit more aggressive getting to the rim because of his height. That was the thing that if I'm not mistaken, that's what I said whenever he first committed to Kentucky. Okay, he's got a good floater game. He's a good scorer, but he's mainly a 3-point shooter. Would love to see him add that third step to his game. And he didn't really have the chance to do it last season as the sixth man of the year in the SEC. But now as the leading scorer on this team, he has gotten so good at taking it to the rim and just finishing over and over and over and over again. He, right now, is a 3-level scorer. Cal said it after the Auburn game. It is so obvious this kid has NBA talent, period. This is a draft pick. This may be a first-round draft pick just based off of his offense. He is consistent. He is aggressive. He is confident. And the biggest thing that I love about the way that Antonio Reeves plays the game, he's calm. You see Kentucky up and down the roster. They've got personalities that pop, that stand out, that you love. They've got energy. They've got excitement. They've got guys that can really push you on a national stage and show out, not just from a talent perspective, but emotionally. Antonio Reeves has been so calm, just a silent assassin this season. And even if the season does not go the way Kentucky anticipates, we're still going to say about Antonio Reeves, he quietly got the Wildcats 18 to 25 a game, night in and night out, consistent. Way more consistent than he was a year ago. That was the question coming into this season. Can Reeves be consistent? And the answer so far this year, oh yeah, he is an NBA talent. 24 points on 7 of 10 shooting, and he did it. I think Rafferty pointed this out on the broadcast at one point. He did it so quietly. You know you've got a really good scorer on your hands when they just drop 15 to 25, and you hardly notice it because it's in the background as opposed to personalities like Dillingham, personalities like DJ Wagner, guys like Ugonna Onyenso, Aaron Bradshaw, Reed Shepard, Zvonimir. Absolutely. We'll talk about him in a little bit. But Reeves, man, we need to appreciate this now because when it's gone next year, it's going to hurt. I'm curious to see how Boogie Flan steps in as a scorer for Kentucky next season. But we really need to stop and appreciate the roster that we have. Hope that it goes well in March because Kentucky's got some really special scorers on this team. They may not see this again, or at the very least for quite some time. So let's continue to talk about some of these different performances. We got 2 other guys I want to highlight here that played really well coming off the bench. Before I get into that, though, I do want to tell you guys about our friends over at FanDuel. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That is $150 if your bet wins. You can bet on all of your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. So all you have to do is visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. Again, FanDuel.com/lockedon to shoot your shot with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, wrapping up the Saturday edition of Locked On Kentucky. Lance Dawe hanging out here with you. Really appreciate you guys tuning in to the show today. If you have not subscribed already, please go ahead and do so. If you're listening on podcast, we greatly appreciate it if you sub there as well. So really quickly, I want to get into this before we talk about these two final players here that performed really well for Kentucky. KenPom update. This is updated while we were recording live. Alabama's defense went from, if I'm not mistaken, around I think it was 70th. It was right. Yeah, it was dead at 70th before this game against Kentucky. It dropped to 100th in adjusted defensive efficiency on KenPom. It dropped 30 spots. 30 spots after this game. In case you're wondering, Kentucky's defense was previously 82nd in the nation. Actually went up. Kentucky gave up 95 points. And their adjusted efficiency went up 3 spots to 79th. Because Kentucky, from a field goal percentage standpoint, it's not that bad. It's really, really not that bad. In fact, both of the numbers from 3 and from 2 are in the top half of the SEC. They're playing good inside and outside the arc. And they block a lot of shots. It's just they don't create a ton of turnovers. And they're not phenomenal at rebounding. They're getting better at it in SEC play now. They're on the verge of being in the top half of the conference. But as a whole, they're not great at grabbing rebounds. But from a field goal percentage standpoint, they're getting better. They're getting better. It's just whenever you play teams like Alabama that play with the pace and aggression that they do, they're going to get to the rim. They're going to score. I said this also. I want to go back to what I said in the preview episode. Alabama has been significantly more reliant on the three-point shot this year. If you go and look at KenPom again, love this website, and you look at point distribution, so percentage of points that opponents and the team individually are getting from 3, 2, and from the foul line. Bama gets 37.8% of their points per game from 3, which is 24th nationally. That's extremely high. And then you look at their 2-point percentage for point distribution, I should say. They get 42.6% of their points from inside the arc. That is 358th nationally. There are only 363 teams in the country. So that is 5th lowest in college basketball. And yet they're still averaging over 90 points a game. I said on the preview episode that Alabama relies on the three-point shot. But Nate Oates' system has Alabama look for the 2-point shot, the direct layup in the paint, before they look to kick it out for 3. And you saw that over and over and over in this game. Again, Alabama with over 50 points in the paint today. They had so many different guys. As soon as they inbound the ball after Kentucky scored, eventually, they would get the ball up the court, they would look for a layup, and it was usually there, or something was there, and they would just go to the basket, lay it up and in, or take a tough 2, or get fouled and go to the foul line. That's what Alabama and Nate Oates have done in the past, where they've looked, if it's not there, you kick it out, you reset, or you get a shot off immediately from 3. That's how Alabama has run their basketball. And I said in this game, Alabama's probably going to be pretty aggressive taking it to the rim. So even though they shoot a ton of threes, can Kentucky run Bama off the three-point line like they did against Auburn? Again, this is a kind of a matchup issue. I think Alabama and Auburn are very similar in the way that they play basketball. Bama much quicker, but Auburn kind of similar with smaller guards and of similar, just a similar vibe, similar way that they like to play the game. Auburn way better on defense, though. And it was just a matter of whether or not Kentucky's length could affect them like they did the Tigers. could affect Alabama like Kentucky did the Tigers. And they did. To an extent. Still giving up 95 points, though. So it just proves, man, you can give up points, but if it's not particularly efficient, Ken Palm's going to notice that. And they certainly did today. So 2 more players I want to highlight here before we head out. Let's talk about Rob Dillingham here. 16 points, 5 of 9 from the floor, 3 of 5 from 3. He had 4 assists and a couple of rebounds in 25 minutes of play. Rob, man, I said it at the beginning of the year. It's going to be so funny to go back and listen to some of the things that I said at the beginning of the year. Just like I did not expect Dillingham to be this efficient of a shooter, especially from deep. I thought he was going to be way more inconsistent. And he has proved everybody and their mother wrong. I mean, this is a lottery pick that you're bringing off the bench. This is your Devin Booker. Dillingham's a little bit smaller and a little bit more out of control as opposed to Devin Booker. But goodness gracious, he's such a good isolation scorer. I mean, you saw at the end of that game, Dillingham just drive all the way in, just split the defense and go right to the bucket. Just a beautiful layup. He's a good shooter. He's crafty with the ball in his hands. He can distribute. This is a great point guard that Kentucky has coming off the bench. Again, like I said about Reeves, appreciate the players that we have on roster now before they are gone. Because goodness, Rob Dillingham is great at what he does. And then another player that got some run, 20 minutes, only 2 fouls, 5 rebounds, 18 points. Your boy Zvonimir Ivisic had some things to say in this game. Also had 4 blocks. He finished with a plus-minus of plus 23. That was the second best on the team. Best of the day, by the way, was Antonio Reeves, who had 5 assists to go along with his 24 points. But Zvonimir, 18 points, 7 of 11 shooting, 1 of 3 from deep. He had 5 rebounds. Just a really good, when this kid gets minutes and he stays out of foul trouble, he can do some things, man. He can pass, he can shoot, he can rebound. Just need to see more consistent effort. Would love to see more consistent effort. If he's able to give that like he was today, he's a special player, man. He's a really special player. He's somebody that Kentucky would really like to have back next season that's going to go to the draft. It would really shock me if Ivisic came back. But he could get a little bit more weight on it. He could be just a menace in Kentucky's front court next season. But Kentucky's got a couple of guys coming in, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, was really pleased with those 2 guys and their performance. Again, 117 points. Yeah, you did it. You hit the pinnacle of what you can do. I think that this is the best Kentucky's going to be. Can you keep it going? Can you keep pushing? This game against Mississippi State is probably going to be a dogfight. It's probably going to be ugly. You're going to see Kentucky probably come crashing back down to earth. But can you hold on, and can you just win? Can you just win some of these games to close out this regular season? You're going to put yourself in position to have a really good season in March if you do. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hey, you can follow the show on Twitter at Locked On UK. You can follow me on Twitter at @LanceDaw_, and you can follow the show over on Instagram. That is at Kentucky Podcast. Any questions, comments, concerns, leave those in the YouTube comments below. Hit me on the socials. I will see you all on Monday for another episode of Locked On Kentucky. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and God bless.